Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Talking with Ty. Guys, this is a super special episode because normally this is my break week. I don't even go live on the first Tuesday of the month, but this is a very special month, so we definitely wanted to do a special episode. For anybody that this is their first time tuning in to Talking with Ty, I am Ty Jackson, your host. Talking with Ty is an unscripted lifestyle podcast that focuses on the story behind the brand. Every Tuesday, we have a guest that's invited to have a conversation with me to touch on the personal side of life. I believe that everyone has a story, and it is our story that truly connects us to other people. So usually, guys, I go live and I tell the story behind the brand, and I'm talking to somebody in the multifamily industry, and we're talking about how they got started and where they came from. But today is an amazing day and such a treat because I get to have a conversation with not just anybody, but with my friend Marci French. Marcy and I are going to get to talk about the journey that she just had in Africa. Guys, Marcy was in Senegal and the Gambia, and she spent 12 days, and it was a life changing experience for her. So, today we're going to talk about the remarkable adventures that she shares and the real story behind the 2 week journey. Marcy said some things. She said it changed her life. And I know that she got to take this trip. The picture that I'm showing you guys is right now is a trip that she took. She took this trip with her daughter. And I happen to be a friend of Marcy's, and I get to have some intimate conversations with her and about motherhood. And then I'm also a young daughter too. So I know how that journey can be with doing things with your mom. So today we're going to talk about the people in Senegal, the Gambia, the land, but most importantly, we're going to talk about this bonded experience and the time that Marcy was able to spend with her daughter. So I know you guys are at your seat at your desk, but if you would stand up where you are, throw your hands in the air, stomp your feet, and clap real loud, and welcome Marcy French to the stage. Hello, Marcy.
Hi, Ty. How are you?
I am doing amazing and welcome. Let me turn the sound up just a little bit. All right, there we go. Marcy, thank you first and foremost so much. I do not take it lightly. I know that this was a transformation for you and an experience, and for you to share it on my platform because you could have shared this story. You have a platform of your own. You could have shared it on that as well as so many other people, but you trusted me and this space that I've created to share your story. So I am amazed. And usually, you guys know when I have the microphone, I just keep on talking. But seeing that I've never been to any one of these places before, we are going to let you kick it off. Now, I have a surprise for you because I have built a collage of pictures from the trip that were my favorite photos. So, what I'm going to do is we're going to let you start by kind of just putting in your words. And then as we move through the segment, I'm going to bring up some pictures and let you just explain to us what was going on in that picture and how you felt in that moment. And hopefully, I jog your memory of some things that you're like, oh my God, Ty. So, welcome. Tell us what's going on. First and foremost, who are you?
That changes every day. Well, I'm Marcy French. I have a lot of things. I'm a mom, as you mentioned earlier. I have two children that are 25 and 18, a daughter and a son. My daughter did go on this trip with me. I am a daughter. I have one parent living at this time. My mother passed away about 8 years ago, very young. So that was a opening for me to really live life fully, which is part of why it was so important for me to take this trip. My dad, if you've ever heard me speak in other podcasts, I've told my story about my relationship with my dad, who is my hero and the most amazing person. So being his daughter is one of the things I'm the most proud of. I'm an asset manager, VP of asset management for a small company. And then this year, I also started, as you mentioned, my own company, French's Leadership Solutions. I'm a facilitator and a speaker and a teacher. And I do those things typically on the topics of diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as leadership. But I'm also a senior faculty member with NAAEI, and I have been blessed to join that team with Rich George and Doug Chasik and Sue Weston. So that's a little bit of who I am, but I'm whoever you need me to be on any given day.
If there was a little bit, I am scared of a lot. Pick your cot up, people, and go take your nap because Marcy just exhausted all of us with all the amazing things that you do and all the things that you bring to the table. So before we dive into the meat and the thick of the trip, how did this start? When did you plan this? When did you even get this thought that, you know what, this is something we're going to do?
So I always, going all the way back. So long story really short, I grew up actually believing I was Puerto Rican. Black Puerto Rican, but Puerto Rican nonetheless. So I had planned for my 40th birthday to go to Puerto Rico. And I did do that. But the year I turned 40, I found out I wasn't Puerto Rican. So little bit of a shift in identity. But from that moment, I did everything I could to learn about my ancestry and my culture. So ironically, I turned 48 this week. And so the timing is just so on point. Yes. Nice choice, Ty, on timing. So once I found out my history, my ancestry, which is really primarily Nigerian and Cameroonian, according to my ancestry DNA test, I decided I needed to go back to the motherland. I wanted to go to Africa. So last year, a year ago, we were supposed to go on a trip to Africa, and it was going to be to Ghana. And I had way too much going on at work, and it just didn't pan out. My boss had asked me if I could possibly reschedule and was very kind about the whole thing. So we planned it a year ago to go on this trip, and Senegal and the Gambia was where I was supposed to go. So my steps were ordered. This is the path I was supposed to take. This was the whole tour I was supposed to do. So a year ago, the planning started. And it was intentionally, I was trying to figure out how to talk about it without talking about it, but I don't think I can. So the trip is supposed to be for me and both my children. And I've had some things happen in my family in the last 3 months that kept my son from being able to go, which was heartbreaking for me all throughout the trip, except that now that I'm home, now I get to take him later. So I'll get to do the trip again and get to experience it with my son. So maybe that was also meant to be the one-on-one time with my daughter and the one-on-one time with my son that I'll get to experience in the future. So that's what happened a year ago. And I'm so glad that I went to these countries at this time. It was impactful.
Yes, and you know, most people can't get their kids to go around the corner with them. Kids get to a certain age, and we know I was that age before, probably not too far from your daughter's age right now. I'm still a little young, so you know. But to go somewhere with the mom, so how was that? I don't even know if I want to go in that deep yet, but the thought of knowing that you were going to experience this with your daughter.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think if you ask her these questions, they will be very different. Like my expectation of what I thought it would be for the two of us ended up very different. So let's just say they don't make these kids like they used to. To your point, like getting your child to go around the corner with you. Yeah, some days she's all about it, and other days she's like, do I have to go? So Africa was my dream for me and for us. What I realized pretty quickly into the trip was it wasn't her dream in the way it was mine. Mm-hmm. It wasn't as important to her to go home, to go to the motherland in the same way it was for me. And I think a little bit of that is telling because as the generations go down, I think the message gets lost on how hard we've had to fight, one, for equality, for our voices to be heard. They don't experience it in quite the same way. Mm-hmm. And we're getting generations further removed from the story of our ancestors. So, you know, it was a little hard. Like, this is a developing country. We were not in first world countries. Internet was not readily available for my dear 25-year-old. The mosquitoes were a little bit more than the mosquitoes here in South Florida. You know, the things, our comforts were not so accessible to her. So you
Well,
know.
would you say, even though it didn't start out with the thoughts that she had by the time that these 12 days were over? Because from the pictures that I looked at and saw you guys together and saw her holding the baby in the village, I know that she was forever changed by
Yeah.
the experience. So it took us a year to plan. Didn't make it the first time. Second time we're on track. We got there. How did it start out? And when I say how did it start out, I want to know how long was that flight? Like what how did it start?
It's not as bad as you would think. Like I thought, oh, I could do this all the time. Like I'm going back more and I'm going back more often. So we flew to New York, but New York to Dakar was 8 hours. And we leave at 9:30 at night and we land at 9:30 in the morning. So it just go to sleep and wake up and you're there. So for me, it was so easy on the way there. You just, if you can sleep on a plane, now there's that. I can sleep anywhere. So I just went to sleep. I woke up and we were getting ready to land over the red dirt. And I was crying before the plane even hit the ground. I was so just touched and excited and felt every emotion and the spirit of our ancestors and everything just welled up in me as we landed. So, but it is not as difficult to get there. And again, I live on the East Coast of the country, right? So if you're on the East Coast and you get a direct flight, it's not so difficult.
Well, when you said it's not so difficult and you said it only took 8 hours overnight, I'm like, Marcy, I would have to have like some type of prescription meds. Yeah, in order to do that. But that's not, but when you say leaving at night and arriving in the morning, if you can sleep overnight, then it's definitely something you can do.
Well, to your point, it's relative. My best friend, so the people I went with, it's her mother-in-law. So she's the one that connected me to this group called Facets, the Florida African American Student Association is who I went with. And she's like, I'm not going anywhere for that long without flying first class. I need a bed. I need to lay down. I need some Benadryl. But if I fly from here to California, it's 6 hours. So I can go 6 hours and not even leave the country. 2 more hours, I'm on a whole nother continent. So, it's
So
relative.
it works. So wait a minute, let's rewind back to the group that you went with because that's new information for me. I'm just thinking this was a trip that you planned with your daughter. So tell us the name of the group again.
It's the Florida African American Student Association. So it's an organization that's been around for, I think they said about 40 plus years. My best friend's mother-in-law and another gentleman, Mrs. Birdsong and Mr. Cleveland, if they happen to see this, they have been doing it with college students for all these years. And so my daughter is technically still a college student, and my best friend's stepson also a college student, and he's the president of the organization. There were a couple other students that went. They had some openings because after COVID, they haven't filled all the spots with students in the same way. So they opened it up to let other people go. So that created an opportunity for me. And it was kind of nice because I didn't have to think about anything. They tell you what to wear, how much money to bring, the itinerary is set. You just got to show up and be willing to receive. And honey, that is the way I like to do a trip. I'm not a planner in any way, but if you tell me what to do, I will do it. So
No, and I love that though. For somebody that is their first time taking this journey to the motherland and not wanting to miss anything, because that makes sense. When we go back and we journey through your trip, all of the landmarks you were able to see, all of the people you were able to meet, that would have probably been totally different
yeah.
without somebody to, as a tour guide, we would say, to guide you through the country. So we landed, the tears are welling up, we're feeling connected to the motherland. We get off the plane.
Overwhelmed. Oh my gosh. There are so many people there wanting to help you and greet you. And I was like, I don't know who's with us, who's just trying to help. It is so overwhelming. And that was the first moment where I realized that that what they're working with in the economy, so different. People really work off of tips there. And so they're always wanting to help out when they see tourists coming. They're doing everything they can to help out so that it's some of how they make their money. So we had an organization there that I've now connected with, that we had a tour guide. And our tour guide, Abu, was amazing. He was right there when we landed with a sign, helped us with our luggage, got us on the bus. And from the moment we got in the bus, he started educating us. From the moment we sat down, and just constant, he would tell us about the economy. He would talk to us about the history. He would talk to us about the language. They gave us language lessons each day and words that we could learn in Wolof. And then some of it was French because Senegal is a French speaking country, but the different tribes, they have Wolof, the Serer, the Jolof, the Fulanis, all of that, immediate education. So you're just taking it in. It was so much. So I'm like just videoing. The amount of video that I didn't post to not put y'all to sleep is so vast. And I still just go back and watch it. And I'm just so like, just talking to you right now, I can feel all the emotions. Like it felt like home, Ty, to step into Africa and look around. And for the first time in my life, like we were there for 12 or 13 days. Every day, but the last day, I saw only people who looked like me. And while that might not be such a big deal, when I grew up in a family and in a town when no one looked like me. So to be somewhere for 12 days, let's call it 11 days, where people only looked like me was so fascinating. It was just like, wow. It was overwhelming.
I mean, I can only imagine because, like you said, you taking it a step further, growing up in a family where nobody looks like you. Then you work in an industry where really nobody looks like you. So, and we live in neighborhoods, I know I do, where really nobody looks like me. So to go to a place where everybody looks like me,
Yeah.
I would only imagine you're able to be your true, authentic self without wondering or worrying.
Yeah.
Am I doing the right thing? Am I living past the stereotype? Am I being too ghetto right now? Am I being too black right now? So I want to go back to tips. When you said that, it makes me think of in America, when I'm at Starbucks, they hand you the thing out, what tip? And all I did was get my drink out of the window, hand it to me. We are so accustomed to not even giving tips, but getting tips without doing anything whatsoever. So to see people scrambling to work to meet a service for you just to get a tip to survive, what mind space did that put you in about where you came from?
Boy, they hustle at a whole nother level. To your point, people are hustling for your tip. They're trying to get in front of each other to do the work, to get to earn the tip from you. But the thing that most impacted me about halfway through the trip, it was like a light bulb went off. As a Black woman from the United States who didn't really have connection to my ancestry, and most of us don't if you're ADOS, right? American descendant of slaves. If you're an American descendant of slaves, you may not even know where in Africa your people come from. We can assume that it's the west coast of Africa because that's where the Atlantic slave trade came from, right? And I want to share a point that the tour guide made with me that changed my perception of that, by the way. But when I realized that I had gone all the way across the ocean, came to Africa so that I could get from them my history, my culture, my food, the things that are missing from me because I didn't grow up with that, right? But they are from the same ancestors and they're looking at me like, can you help me? I'm gonna hustle for you so I can get your $5 because that is gonna feed my family tonight. I'm looking at them going, no matter what they give me culturally and knowledge wise and education wise, it's never going to be enough to fill the gap of what me and my generations before have missed. No matter how much tips I give them, it's not going to change their life permanently, financially, economically. And no matter what we're missing from one another and we give to each other, it's never going to be enough. And that is what really, if I have to sum up my whole trip, that was really the impact of, I need to do more. I want to do more. I'm going to take all the knowledge and all the education they will give me and all the acceptance and welcoming me home. But what can I do in return? Because I feel like I owe it now to them in some way because I've had opportunities that they didn't. They have opportunities that I didn't. And we need to be together as one to figure out how to make it work for both sides.
So with saying that, and one of the things, the acronym that Melissa talks about, and when we talked about her starting her nonprofit, when she talked about MAD, make a decision. Something happens that transforms you, that makes you want to make a decision to do something. How did this change Marci coming back home? Because we can be changed when we're somewhere. You and I spent time in the Bahamas together where we were able to spend time with children from an orphanage, and
Yeah.
we wanted to make room in our suitcase, people, to bring these people back home with us. Like, that's that's how you feel. So how did it change you to say, when I get back home, how is this change still going to go with me?
So it's interesting that you mentioned that because my daughter made fun of me. I had the same interaction to the children in Africa at the beginning of the trip until the day we went to the village. And I think you saw the picture where I'm picking up and I'm holding the children. And I just was like melted. I didn't want to take them away and bring them home with me anymore because what they have is so pure there. They're so protected. And the whole, like, it takes a village. Wow. Like, they're serious about that, Ty. The village, the children are running around and they're having fun and they are protected by the village. I worry every day my son leaves the house here. You know what I mean? Like, it's a whole, it was a mind shift. So to your question, instead of me trying to always figure out how I can get information, I came back with how can I make impact there? So funny you mentioned Melissa. There's an organization Melissa works with, Righting Their Wrongs. So I've had two impactful things happen within these 2 months, this trip and an interaction with my son, that made me realize that there's opportunity for me locally to make impact. I need to educate myself on how to do that the best I can for our people and really for everybody, right? When I say for our people, of course, I'm speaking as a Black woman, but the positive impact to the Black community positively impacts all of us.
That's right.
So doing that, but also being able to figure out there are programs and ways I can give back in Africa. I can go back there. It's an 8-hour plane ride for me, 6 hours to California. I can do that. There's ways. So I'm trying to work. I made some connections in Africa at the university with my tour guide, and I'm going to see what I can do to come back and pour back into them.
I love that, because you're right. When we were in the Bahamas, and now that I think about it, you changed my perspective, because it was like, I want to take you home with me. But then I turned on the news here, and these were Black teenage kids we were seeing in the Bahamas. And when you turn on the news here, those are the ones that we're burying. Would I really want to bring you back home with me? Or is that your daughter? Because that's
Yes.
space for her.
Say hello, Elijah.
Hello.
Elijah, hello. Wait a minute, honey. You didn't came on camera, so we need you before you leave out of the room, because I want to know, and I want the people to hear it from your voice. How was this experience with your mom?
Oh, it was amazing. It was definitely one of those once in a lifetime like opportunities, especially because it was just the two of us this time. So it was like really bonding for us, but also it was really eye-opening because we got to experience a lot of these like historical experiences and these historical sites and places that held so much meaning together. So it was like even more meaningful because it was with someone I cared about in that way. So it was really nice. It was beautiful. I had a really good time overall.
I mean, minus a few things. So how did you make it for 11 days without being able to do this?
Oh, that was easy. I was in the military, so I spent a lot of time away from my phone.
So
So
you
the
already
phone
have the
part was fine.
discipline of the no phone.
Yeah, it was fine.
Okay, so
And her new name is Ada Obi, which is
Ada
firstborn
Obi.
daughter.
I'm going back the next time with y'all. So first off, let me go ahead and put that on the calendar. Food.
Yes.
I need to know one more thing. Food. How was the food experience?
Oh, good. That was the best part. The best part.
She's a brave eater, so she tried everything and loved it. And it was really good, fresh.
It was really amazing.
Fresh. Oh,
So, see, Ron, we're gonna keep. I got to keep going with y'all. So, I put a few pictures together, guys, and I just want to know when the picture pops up, tell me the first thing that comes to your mind and to your heart.
That's Shell Island. So that was okay. So this day was the day we went to an island and there was an island and a cemetery. And what makes it unique is Senegal is 90% Muslim, 10% Christian. This island is reverse. It's 10% or 90% Christian, 10% Muslim. But they all live together. And animist is the third religion. Animist is more of they believe the spirits are in the trees and the earth, and everything has the spirits, like source, if you will. So they all live together on this island. It's about 6,000 people. They live completely harmoniously. They share with each other. And it was Eid the week we were there. So that's like the Christmas for the Muslim religion is their biggest holiday. And they were celebrating with one another. So the Christians were celebrating with the Muslims. There was a couple of other pictures. We went over to this one location where the cemetery is one of the few places where everybody is buried together. The Muslims, the animists, and the Christians. And to see them all just love on one another and commune together and be together was just a blessing. It was beautiful.
Yeah. That's amazing because it shows you can have different beliefs, you can be from different places, but to be able to love on each other and be one. So that's why you missed your trip last year, because this was meant for you to go at this time right here. So Elijah, tell us a little bit about these. Tell us about these pictures, because I want to know exactly how you're feeling.
She's got a few minutes. She's got to catch a movie.
I didn't realize that you took this picture. But the crocodile picture, they kept pressuring me to touch it. And they were like, you guys can touch it. And my cousin, he was so brave. He went and touched it super easily. And I was like, I'm not whatever. So you can kind of see on my face that I wasn't the most eager. But the picture on the left with the woman, I really wanted to take a picture with her. I got a tapestry from my friend for a gift. And it was handmade by the tapestry. By her and her I think it was like her daughter and some people that worked for her, but she ran it herself. And she was really, I really liked her. She was the owner of the business, but she ran it like she was very strict. Like she was the matriarch of that family that was working there, and they all respected her and she respected herself. She gave us a fair price and she didn't budge on prices that she knew was fair for her work. And I really respected her. I really liked her.
No, my favorite part about that picture is we were on that. Listen, everything's a negotiation.
Yeah.
And if you're me, that is so painful. Like, I just tell me how much it is, I'll just pay for it. But everything is a negotiation and they enjoy the negotiation. And she's just like, no, that's not enough.
Yeah.
Like, the whole time. But when we were done with our sales, Elisha says, will you take a picture with me? She goes, yes, like, come. And her whole countenance completely changed. It became this like sweet grandmother and this loving and sweet. I'm like, when she's about her business, she's about her business.
And that's what I really liked about her. I was like, she knows what she's about and she's confident in herself. I love that.
Well, you know what, Elijah, I know that you have to leave, but first and foremost, to hear you at 25 say that's what you loved about her, that she was confident in it, that she was confident in the value of her business. Yeah. That is something you take that with you for the rest of your life. Coming from somebody that's just a little bit older than you,
just a little bit.
You take that with you for the rest of your life, because sometimes as Black women, we question our value in business as we get bigger. We have problems when it comes to pricing, when we know that this is the best that anybody could deliver. Absolutely. And because that is ingrained in you, you take that with you for the rest of your life. And when somebody asks you for your price, you do just what she did.
Exactly.
Boom. Thank you for
Elisha, little plug. Elisha lives in South Florida between Miami and Fort Lauderdale, and she's looking for a leasing position. So if you are looking to hire a leasing consultant, she's not dressed for an interview right now.
I'm going to the movies, so this is how I'm dressed for work. Okay. But yes.
You see how smart you are and you know your value. So I would bring you in, but y'all better know what to say when you negotiating that salary.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you.
So Marci, I talked about the food. Honey, French fries, looks like rice and fish. Tell me about it.
Ty, let's talk about this food. Okay, so first of all, I do not share with my daughter any kind of bravery or curiosity when it comes to food. So the number one fear I had of this trip was not the heat, was not the bugs, was not any of that. It was the food, because I don't know what I don't know. And I'm not a brave eater. I don't try things. I'm the person that goes to the restaurant. I get the same thing every single time. The first day was the meal on the right. They brought me a whole fish. And when I say a whole fish, I mean the eyeballs were looking at me. The tail was just done swimming. The whole thing on a plate with this brown rice. And my best friend's mother-in-law sat across from me and she said, could you bring me a fish that's not looking at me? And I was like, okay, she's done this trip lots of times and, we show her respect. But I was afraid to ask for that. So I was like, yeah, I really don't want my fish looking at me either. What if I don't like it? I don't want to offend anybody. But girl, that fish was so good. If you follow me, I did the picture, the before and the picture after, and that bone was clean, girl. So good. So I ate fish for probably the first 5 days straight because I knew I would like it.
I have a friend here. So my friend Kato, you guys check out Project Runway because she's actually an all-star on there right now. And she is African. And when she makes an African dish, me and Tidy are literally fighting over it. It's spicy and everything. And Tidy is 6, guys. And he's pushing me over saying, Mama, let me have the rest of it. Yeah. So when you show this, because you cannot get authentic. Now, you live in Miami, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's available. Yeah.
People always say it's authentic African cuisine. Unless you have somebody from the motherland that grew up in the village cooking for you, you're not getting this.
Yeah, it's called, there's different names. There's jollof rice, and then there's this whole thing about where it started. Is it Ghana? Is it Senegal? I'm trying to remember. My mind is going, I should have wrote all these terms down. But this rice and the fish, out of this world.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, I want to be in Africa eating with Marci right now. And I know you because I've been, like I said, in the Bahamas. So I've seen you look at some food and be like, I'm not sure about that. So the first time I had a whole fish with a fish head, I did the same thing. And I was like, well, I'm just going to go for the body. And the bone was clean when I got done with it. Yes. So these photos right here, tell us a little bit about, what do you feel? Where do you see? What are we seeing?
So, Ty, you picked some good ones. I'm going to just try really hard. I know that you're just goal in life to see how bad you can make me cry today. Okay. The first one is a picture of Black Jesus on that island in Shell Island. So interesting. Our tour guide, Abu, and there was a guy that you had a picture of me and his t-shirt. It said black, no cream. That's Edward. They both had mentioned that in just recent years, they realized that the blonde hair, blue-eyed Jesus pictures that they had been seeing was probably not a true depiction of what the real Jesus looked like. Mm-hmm. And they'd only recently got this Black Jesus at the church. And they're so proud of it that when you come to the island, they're like, let us take you to see Black Jesus. And, our group is like, we know wool hair and Middle East. And yeah, it was blonde, blue-eyed. Like, we're thinking history we know. But it was amazing that the history of colonization, how it impacted even Africa. That he said maybe 6 years ago, it dawned on him, Jesus probably wasn't blonde and blue-eyed based on the geography of where Jesus was.
Him too, yeah.
So that's Black Jesus. They're very proud of it. The second one is from inside their version of the Statue of Liberty. So there were some pictures of a man holding the baby and his wife. That's inside the crown of the man, looking down at the wife. So in the crown, you can go up into this elevator that only holds 4 people. And it's like this big and there's no air conditioning. And you go up like, I don't know how many flights. And I'm trying not to have a panic attack. And you get to the top and you come out thinking you're going to breathe. And then it's tight up there too. So I went one time around, got back in the elevator, went down because I'm claustrophobic. But this is the view looking out and you can see the wife or the woman. And then you see across, that's all of Dakar in Senegal. So that's their version of the Statue of Liberty. And it is the African museum monument. And it's a big deal there. Like that's one of the major tourist attractions. The third one, probably the most impactful to me, that is at James Island, otherwise known as Kunta Kinte Island, was where we went from there. That's Jufuri. That village is Jufuri. If you have ever read the book Roots, watched the miniseries Roots, I listened to the audiobook. Oh my gosh, I just forgot his name. Avery Brooks is the narrator. The most, if you do audiobooks, this is the best audiobook I've ever listened to. He tells the story like you can picture everything. So this is Jufuri. This was one of the main reasons I was so happy I went on this trip. So I got to go where Kunta Kinte lived. We went there, and this is you can see the chains on his wrist. From there, we caught a boat over to Kunta Kinte Island, which is where they took the slaves and kept them for 2 weeks before they left for the Atlantic, across the Atlantic. Interesting fact I just share because we're talking about it. Slavery, we think about slavery in the United States, but I think it's less than 9% of the slaves that left Africa came to the United States. A bigger portion of them went to the Caribbean, places like, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Cuba, all the little islands, the Virgin Islands, all around that area. So you think about how the cultures are impacted in the Caribbean, and living in South Florida, it was like, aha, I could see all the connections back to Africa from living here. But yeah, that was probably one of my favorite stops, was Jufuri.
And you know what? That is so amazing. We see the movie, we see all these different movies, Roots, and we've read about Kunta Kinte. When you're there and you're speaking to somebody that knows the history firsthand, it's like seeing a movie about my family, but I'm a family member, and you're having a conversation with me. How is that transformation to actually talk to somebody that can show you the things and tell you about it in a way that a book or a movie is going to exclude some things?
Yeah, and we know Roots is probably built in with some fictional pieces because it has to be, right? There's only so much of the story that was passed down orally from generation to generation. But to step on that ground, and this is probably a good point to say, one of the things I learned from our tour guide, Abu, he said to me, I don't care about your ancestry DNA. He said, you guys come here with your ancestry DNA test and want to show us, right? Look, I'm Nigerian. Look, I'm Cameroonian. He said, none of that matters because we don't view it that way. We're not Nigerian, Cameroonian, because if you go back to that time, we're all the same people. We all come from the Mandinka Empire. All of us on the west part of Africa, we're all Mandinka. So whether you're from Senegal, from the Gambia, from Nigeria, from Cameroon, from the Ivory Coast, from Mali, you're Mandinka. We're all the same. So he talked about the villages. Girl, the thing that shocked me the most is we were on the boat ride back from Goree Island, which is another trip, another stop that was impactful. It's where we got our African names. And somebody asked my tour guide, is she Senegalese? Is she Fulani? Because I was doing something. And I was like, so he translates to me. They want to know if you're from Senegal. And I cracked up and they hear me talk and then they know. I was like, somebody mistakenly thought I was from Senegal. Like that brought such joy to me to be thought of as, because I'm biracial.
Like I'm with my people.
Yeah. I figured I'd come and they're gonna be like, oh, yeah, she's one of those. But no, it was like, you're one of us. You're one of us, sis. We see you. We see how you look. You look Fulani. You look like one of us. And I never felt more seen, accepted, and belonging somewhere where I belonged ever in my life as I did in that moment.
I love that, especially when I've heard the stories of you say, growing up in a place where you were the minority, it was hard to fit in because nobody was as dark as Marci. And then you come into a place where it's all African American people and nobody is as light as Marci. Yeah. So finding your place to fit in, and even not with just colorism, with I'm loud, I'm tall, I wear big hair, I love fashion. there's not many places that I can fit in. Like, so
Mm.
when you're with your people, wherever
Mm.
that might be, it's a feeling of wholeness, a feeling of welcomeness, and a feeling where if you've ever been somewhere, people, where you can truly just be yourself. Usually we're in situations where we have to, let me change my hair, let me do this. I don't want to talk too loud. I don't want my heels to be, let me make sure my dress not. But when you can be somewhere and it's like, you know what? I can be exactly who God created me to be. And this is the space for me to be it in. That is powerful. Like Kara House said, we're all the same people. And I love that. If we all looked at it like we're all Americans,
Yeah.
whether you're black, brown, blue, or yellow, we are
Yeah.
all Americans. We all speak the same language. We are all one people. If we embodied that, how much would we get done and how safe and seen would we be in our own country?
Yep. You're exactly right. And I thought of that, like in Africa, there's so much more of a we're all the same, that I wish we embodied the same in this country. But it's and I don't want to make light, like I do feel that, right? We all come from the same. And by the way, you go all the way back. We go all the way back to Africa. Every single one of us. I don't care what shade of skin you have. We go back to Africa. But I understand that people will say, well, we need to be American. But the idea of being in a space, I think people take for granted the fact that they can walk in a space and not stand out or be different and have to code switch, right? The need to code switch as a Black woman is really, it's a thing. And so if you've never had to do that in a real way, like an impactful way, yeah, you take it for granted. So going to Africa, and by the way, Ty, they will eat you up over there, because Elisha was cracking because she's small too, and they kept saying, how many camels for your daughter? How much gold for your daughter? And then somebody got her and said, can I give you some bulls for your mother? And she's like, what? Like, oh, they still offering they dowry for their wives over there. So
You have to pay money in America.
right,
So,
I'm like,
so the photos that are on the screen right now, tell us a little bit about these photos.
oh yeah, some of the great places. So I'm going to start on the right, because the African Museum, where the woman, the man, and the child, that's the museum on the right hand side that we went into, that was attached to the statue. And it had, girl, can I tell you, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X are everywhere in Africa. It's so interesting. Like, we would still go down Martin Luther King Boulevard and Nelson Mandela Boulevard, and Malcolm X it's amazing the impact of African Americans on Africa. But that was that museum, and it showed different stages of Black history. You saw all different parts of Africa, not just Senegal represented. You can see kind of the cutoff of an Egyptian there. There was slavery there. There was inventions there, great leaders there. And that was the other thing cool about Africa is, of course, we're focused a little bit on slavery because that's our connection back to Africa. We've been displaced because of our ancestors being enslaved and stolen, but that's not their history, right? That's not who they are as a people. So it was interesting to get other pieces of history, which are the other two pictures, right? We've got the one in the middle is a loom, and it's where they make the tapestries, and there's rugs and tapestries you hang on the wall. One of the tapestries they showed us, the gentleman had been working on for 9 months. And like, they were gifts for dignitaries and politicians and stuff in Senegal. They were like so much money, probably in American money. Some of them were like $50,000, $75,000, $100,000. It was crazy. The left-hand side was the mosque or the masjid, and it's open to the public. It's open air. All the marble stuff was shipped in from France and from I just blanked, all different countries all over the world. And they raised the money locally, billions, like $2 billion or something, to build this mosque. And it's the Grand Mosque of Touba. And it was 112 degrees that day. And when you go in, you show respect. We were covered. You don't show your neck. You'll see the pictures of us with basically hijab on. We cover our hair. I brought mine with me. I didn't have my hijab didn't cover my hair all the way. So the tour guide gave me one that day and let me keep it. So this is the one I was wearing in the mosque and I keep it with me all the time. It's like such an important piece of my trip. But walking through there, and Elisha and I actually prayed. The men and the women pray separately, and Elisha and I took our time and made offers to God. They welcome other religions to say their prayers and deliver their wishes. They say, you don't wear shoes. You walk around with no shoes on. There were people napping in there, praying in there. It's completely open to the public, and you need a cool space to be. You go inside.
So you know what? That is amazing because when we think about DE and I, and one of the things that I'm focusing on for a pitch that I'm working on is cultural differences.
Mhm.
With us having our own culture here and doing things our way, sometimes you work with people and it's cultural differences. So to be in another country and having to cover your hair and to see them do things their way, how did that, because usually we're here in America and people are doing things our way. Or if we see their way, like covering up or don't touch women or not putting women to a higher standard and listening to the things that we have to say sometimes, here we can feel like, but when you're in somebody else's country and doing things their way, like how does that change your perspective or humble you to be able to take part in this and have to cover up?
Mhm. So for me, it wasn't a problem for a couple of reasons. One, I believe in showing respect for other cultures, regardless of what you believe. I always have a healthy respect for other people's beliefs. So for me, it wasn't even a thing. I actually was in a relationship with someone in my past for about, I don't know, several years that was Muslim. So I was actually able to take all the things he had taught me
Mhm.
and know this is the way I'm supposed to dress when I'm here. This is how I cover. This is how I show respect. I know that they're praying times a day. I knew Eid was a time when they're celebrating. Like, so I felt kind of proud to have known about the culture coming in a little bit. But I think watching folks interact with it was interesting. And even my daughter and I, different generation and the women, right? It, it was a learning opportunity for her because different doesn't mean disrespect.
Yep.
Just because the men and women pray separate doesn't mean there's a disrespect for women. And it was a good opportunity for her to go to a country that was largely Muslim because her education about what it is to be Muslim comes from the media. And there's always this depiction of women are disrespected. Listen, our tour guide was like, my wife is the boss. She's the boss. Women are not, I didn't see any level of disrespect. There was separation in moments.
Mhm.
And they do that to preserve their, so they're focused. They're focused on the right time. They're not in church looking for a husband. They're not in church looking for a wife. They're in church focused on God, not each other.
Well, that makes sense.
That's what the separation is about. But the respect, never once while I was there did I witness, see, feel disrespected as a woman. If anything, I felt lifted up as a woman. So, but I believe that is important. Education happens in travel when you go to other countries. That was the first time my daughter was born in Japan, but since being back in the States, that's the first time she's traveled out of the country. She went all the way to Africa. And to me, that education is priceless. It is better than any education you can get in schools, my opinion.
Even with your daughter saying about the lady knowing her value, that is something, because she came home and that was ingrained in her, that's going to stay with her forever. And you're getting coached just like I do from the Melissa D. White. I have to shout my girl out, but that's something that we struggle with sometimes is our value.
Yeah.
And so to have that experience early on in life is such a defining moment for a Black person. So I'm kudos to you as a mom, though, Marci, for giving her that experience because, I mean, well, and I don't want to take you out with the tears, but I mean, you know how we feel about you in a group, and we all look up to you, not as the mom figure. You're more of a big sister type of thing. You're more, you're a little too young for the mom girl. I'm more of a big sister type of role. but you stand in the gap for other people and you speak up and you expose other people. So to be able to do that with your daughter, I know how amazing that was to you because I just know how you feel about your children. So let's keep on going because we're almost at the top of our hour and I had a few pictures that I dug out. So tell us on these pictures, where are we and what are we doing?
Oh, wow. So actually, the picture on the right is inside the university on the left, University Sheikh Anta Diop de Dakar. So it is a university. I had the best conversation. This was the day I can tell because we're all wearing, a lot of us are wearing white. It was the day we did our naming ceremony. And we went to the college first. And I had the best conversation with two of the professors. One was a woman, one was a man. And they were having this conversation. The first picture they took was all the guys. And we had introduced ourselves and said what we do for jobs. I had mentioned I'm a diversity, equity, and inclusion speaker in the States. And the female professor said, "How dare you not say something? They took pictures with the men only. You should say something." I was like, "All right, sis." So we took the pictures with the girls, and then we had this really great conversation, the two, them in the middle, right there, about how when the professor on the left, the gentleman was a student at that same school, there were two women professors in the whole school. And she said, "How many are there today?" And he was like, "6? We've made some changes. We're doing better. There's 6 now." Now, mind you, I don't know how old they are. I'm assuming they're 30s, 40s. There's 6. And she was like, "Oh." So I said, "Okay, the real question is how many total professors are there at the school?" And she goes, 48. I said, "I'll be back."
You're needed there. When I look at this picture and it says, "Look ahead and be hopeful. Look back and be grateful. Look around and be helpful."
Yeah.
It made me think of, well, and it really made me think of when you said when you got off the plane that look around and be helpful. If that was everybody's mantra, look around and be, there's help needed every single place we go, but sometimes we only look inward instead of looking around.
Yeah.
So I challenge anybody that is out there listening today. One of the things we talk about is bigger than me.
Yeah.
I'm a facilitator in this industry and I stick in this industry because this is a crazy industry to be in that will drive you to drinking. See? Exactly. See?
I swear there's coffee in here. It's coffee, I swear.
It will make you think that this candle is your midday coffee. It can get crazy like that. But the look around and be helpful because there are so many people to help. I mean, like we work in the rental housing industry. So shelter is a main necessity. So I know that resonated with you so much because that's what we do. Is look around and be helpful to other people. So let's continue to go because Marci loves the kids, honey, and we do too. So what are we doing? Because I love her. Like I want to take the little girl. Like I'm like, that's my daughter. Like let's go there.
Oh, I can't wait to get back to them. Listen, if I weren't turning 48 this week and looking towards being a grandma, I was like, oh, my ovaries hurt. I want a baby. They're so beautiful. They're so full of wonder and just joy and the simplicity, like taking away the technology and the TVs. I mean, this was a village where they lived in huts, like literal huts. They didn't have air conditioning. Nobody was playing on a Game Boy. They were playing outside with each other. We brought them rice and flour and sugar and some cookies. Oh my gosh, they were so excited. You could see little boys eating the cookie. They were just so full of love. It was just, so welcoming. The kids were like holding around our legs and it was like family. And that's how they see us when we come. It's like everywhere we went, they would say, welcome home, welcome, come back to us. Like, welcome back to us. Like you were missing from us. We're so glad you're back and that you get to experience your family. That's how they see it. It's not like your country or your culture. It's like your family. We were missing you, even though they don't know you, right? It's
exactly.
you're welcome. Anytime you want, come here. We'll feed you. They take care of you. Like, do you want a place to sit? Do you need something to eat? It was just the most beautiful experience.
And that is a huge culture difference because we know if your long lost cousin pull up to your house and he ain't called, you're gonna be like, "Who sent
You
you?
go first.
Who sent you?" So we like to just come in and be welcomed as family. And there's certain places and family members that we don't even go around because we don't feel welcomed when we go to their homes. And to go to a whole nother country and to feel welcome, welcome back. We miss you. Come in, take a load off, rest.
Mhm.
How amazing is that? And you said the kids were outside playing, but I remember earlier you said it was hot. So, people, the heat doesn't kill the kids.
Oh
They
my
can
God.
go outside and play. They didn't have electronics and they were okay. If your child leaves their phone at home this school year, you don't have to turn a cartwheel to get it to them. Like these things that, and I'm saying them in a comical way, but I say it because I hear friends that like, what he don't got his phone today. I'm like, I didn't have a phone growing up,
I know,
or
right?
yeah, Tidy has his own TV in his room, and that's my husband's doing. Let me put that out there. But I'm
Yeah.
like, no, and I make him go outside, and you hear it's too hot. It's too go outside, be one with the earth, get out of these electronics. Like that's a whole nother episode that I can be on. So this
Listen, they're built different in Africa, though, girl. First of all, I was like, I don't have as much melanin, so I'm gonna need some sunscreen and some shade. But when you grow up your whole life, it is hot, 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 and you outside all the time, they be like not even sweating, looking at you like they gonna pass out.
and you like, and I saw some of them pictures. You like, Lord have mercy.
I had fan. I bought a fan day one. I did not. The fan was my best friend.
That, and being able, I know you said y'all took cookies and sugar and were able to take gifts. And when I read your post and I saw that, it made me think about when people went to the village to see Christ, and they took gifts, and to be able to do that and do that for these children, and nobody's looking at you. I remember I gave Tidy $5 for the Easter, I mean the tooth fairy. And he was like, "Mama, you only gave me $5." Excuse me? Like, what are we giving for teeth now?
Oh, I know. It's
So
perspective. Yeah.
it is, and when you go somewhere where that's not, because our children have been groomed in a different way. Even from when you and I were younger, we didn't expect as much as children expect now.
Yeah.
So to be able to give a gift that touched the heart, that was so small, because that was a small token, but it meant something big to somebody else. How did that make you feel?
It feels so good to give. And it was such a beautiful reminder, like how good it feels to give. And we just don't, I think we forget. I think we just, like, my heart is attached in a different way to everything I give. I just saw James Burwell's name pop up. I haven't really been paying attention to the remarks, but I saw James's name. And by the way, James is a giver to his core. Everything about James Burwell is about giving and making sure everybody has what he has. And this is a sentiment that is in Africa. The tour guide was talking to us, Abu, about COVID and how his village was struggling, and he wiped out his entire savings account to make sure that his village was taken care of, because if he has it, everybody has it. And that's like how it's a sentiment that just is there. I don't know that we live like that. I know we don't live like that as a whole, right? It's every person for themselves, and it changed how I think, and it changed every moment. Like now when I give a tip, like I think about that in a different way. When I am able to donate somewhere or give back somewhere, my time, my money, whatever it is, my talent, it has a different impact.
Definitely. And that I mean that sums it all up because if I give to Marcy, Marcy gives to Dana, Dana gives to Monica, Monica gives to Ashia, everybody is serviced and everybody is taken care of, which I think is the way that God intended for us to live. But now everybody is so self-absorbed, so it's just like, well, as long as Ty is good, Marcy gonna have to fend for herself.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we all take that approach, and that's why James is my best friend. So you can shout James out all you want, sis. James belongs to me. I'm gonna put that. I gotta go on record with saying that. James, let him know. James said, "Yes, ma'am, Marcy. We collectively rise together.
Together.
If you
Together.
want to go far,
Go
go
together.
alone.
Go together.
If you want to go fast,
Yeah, if you want to go fast, go alone.
but if you want to go far,
Go together.
go together." We are at the top of the hour, Marcy. Because I can't leave without telling you what I feel about this picture and what you feel about it. But your last and final thoughts that you want, because the people are out here, they are tuned in and they are listening. What did this trip, this transformation do for Marcy French?
Well, that right there is Jarabuso Kamara. That was my African name I was given on that day at Goree Island, which was the final port that most people saw before they left their home. It's it's called the Door of No Return. It's the last place they went through when they left Africa to embark on the Atlantic slave trade. They're changing the name from the Door of No Return to the Door of Return because so many of us are going home to visit this location. And in that moment, I never felt more myself. And it was, a time to really take in all the love and all of the everything, all the spirits of my ancestors and everything that they endured so that I could have this life right here. Somebody somewhere got on a boat and took the ride, survived the ride, survived the life of being stripped of their name, stripped of their language, stripped of the religious or spiritual practice, completely stripped, and had a child. And then that child had a child, all the way down to someday I'm born. And I was grateful we did libations for our ancestors, known and unknown. And that moment, it just felt like it all came together. I felt like I carried the weight of my ancestors there. And I also want to say I took a moment and my girls from Melanin and Multifamily, I took a moment there and I took all of your spirits there with me as well, to know that I hope someday we can all go together there. But I took a moment to think of each and every one of you and to carry you in my heart as I stood in that point and know that the work that all of you are doing too, to make a difference in our industry and outside of our industry, is because your ancestors came through that port as well.
We love you. For you to say that this is the picture where you felt yourself, I want you to know this is the picture where you looked most like yourself too. This is a picture where I was able to see all of Marcy. I was able to see the Black woman, and not to negate the white side of you, not knowing if that is the politically correct term to use, the Caucasian side of you. But in this photo, I see the Black woman in you, and I want to let you know that I'm proud of you because I know how it is to step into who you boldly are, to have your fist in the air, to have your braids going, and to stand as a true Black woman, because you are somebody who can pass for anything into any room. So when you decide to make a choice to take a stand, to say that, no, I am a Black woman, that opens doors for the rest of us. That gives the rest of us the courage to be all the Blackness that we are and to walk right behind you. So when you wonder why we're following you in those rooms, why Marcy is the OG of the group, Marcy this, and you're like, y'all, this is why. This is because. So continue to be bold, continue to take a stand, and continue to be Marcy French, because we are following you, we are looking at you, we are cheering you on, and we are servants waiting to work with you, alongside with you, and for you. I personally love you, and I thank you so much for sharing your journey on Talking with Ty.
Thank you for having me, Ty, so much. I appreciate this time.
You're welcome. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. Please continue to follow Talking with Ty. Next Tuesday, we're going to have Stephanie Anderson from Grace Hill on with us, and Stephanie and
Happy
I will
birthday,
be.
Stephanie. Today's her birthday. Happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday to Stephanie. And I heard you say that this is your birthday week. So happy birthday to you also. I wish I was in Miami to hang out with you at the beach, honey. But I will get a chance to love on you when I see you in San Diego. So until the next time, Marcy, thank you so much. And you have an amazing day.
You too.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.